My name is Nidhi Mahajan, and I was formerly a Fatema Mernissi Postdoctoral Fellow here at the Africa Institute. I am currently an assistant professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Cruz. My research focuses on Indian Ocean trade networks and questions of sovereignty and histories of capitalism in the Indian Ocean. So I work primarily with dhow sailors from across the Indian Ocean who move between India, the UAE, and Kenya, as well as other places in the Middle East and East Africa, such as Somalia and Yemen. And part of what I'm interested in doing is thinking through a history of capital from the Indian Ocean and what a particular kind of maritime labor, especially drawing from Indian Ocean concepts such as patronage, do in thinking about histories of capitalism that are not linear and rather suggest circular dialectic histories of capital in the Indian Ocean. And the significance of this work is that it sort of resituates and draws from concepts from the Global South in reimagining histories of capital in the region, but also widely theorizing capitalism not as a linear formation, but as actually being contingent and flexible and drawing from multiple logics that pick up on pre-existing forms such as patronage or Sufi notions of hospitality, as well as sovereignty that come into play and are sort of drawn into these larger theories of capitalism. There are so many key takeaways from my experience working at the Africa Institute. For one, it was really interesting to have a conversation about Africa and the Indian Ocean that was not filtered through the West, but through Global South connections. Part of the history of the Africa Institute is that it came out of recommendations from an Afro-Arab conference here in Sharjah. And I think that spirit of South-South collaboration has continued here at the Institute, where you're not just speaking to scholars from the West, but also to scholars who are from the region as well as from the African continent, who come from a very different genealogy of scholarship. So I think that was one of my sort of, very precious takeaways, was that it is possible to have a conversation that comes from a different epistemology, actually, and a different framework. Another key takeaway was kind of bridging the gaps between disciplines, right? So moving between the arts, social sciences, and humanities to really think transdisciplinarily about intellectual questions. So the gallery, the academic space, the intellectual space, there was movement across different spaces that I think is really constructive in moving beyond the strict confines of producing academic knowledge in an institutional setting. I think cross conversations really are important in undoing this gap between academic work and other forms of creative work. And I think the Africa Institute is a great model for thinking of how that can be done in an institutional setting. I think one of the key pieces of advice that I have is to take advantage of all that Sharjah has to offer, right? In terms of the Africa Institute, there are scholars from all over the world who are here and come from very different perspectives. And I think engaging with their work and their scholarship, as well as sharing your own work so that they can offer critical feedback, is central. Another is to really deeply engage with other institutions in the region, such as not only the Sharjah Art Foundation or the Sharjah Architecture Triennial, but other arts institutions in the UAE and universities in the UAE, because there is a growing network of scholars in the region. So drawing from that, I think, is important, but also very helpful in terms of fostering a sense of belonging here in the UAE.